Hi, it's Kris and Elizabeth. We are here with our good friend Todd Stottlemyre, kicking off Tuesday, February 23rd at our Global Summit. Elizabeth, we are so excited to talk to Todd. Tell us more about him.
Todd Stottlemyre, there you are. He's amazing. He was, I have notes on you even, I want to make sure I get everything right, but it's 15 seasons in the MLB, the Branch Rickey Award winner, Lou Gehrig Award winner, and then we're here to talk to him about relentless success and his latest book, The Observer. What a great book this is. Todd Stottlemyre, welcome. I'm so glad you're here with us.
Well, this is cool for me. I'm honored. I'm humbled that you even asked me to, kind of kick this thing off and be a part of your guys' summit. And I'm I'm just so appreciative, and the opportunity to share and hopefully what we discuss and what we talk about and the stories and go through that. Hopefully, my whole goal is always can one person, at least one person in the audience or someone that captures this video, can one person relate and then understand that, it's like, hey, look, other people have gone through what they're going through, and there are different ways, there are better ways, there's a way out, there's a way to create the champion, in your life. And so for me, I'm humbled, I'm honored, the opportunity to serve, and it's going to be a great hangout today. So
yeah, we're absolutely thrilled to have you with us. And do you want to just get started? I mean, I would love to hear. First of all, let's just ask about this book. Let's start here because this is brand new, and I just want you to tell people what this is, because this is it was on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. Congratulations.
Yeah, very.
What's that?
Yeah. Very fortunate. I appreciate that. It's really what I want to talk about today is really, I wrote the book, The Observer, Mastering Thoughts and Emotions. And because it was a mess that I was living in, and because of that mess, it's really become my message. And I've had an incredible amount of people that helped me go from a place of hate and anger and guilt to love, peace, and joy, but along the way to really understand of how to get in a state of flow, how to get in peak performance, how to stay in peak performance, and then to have the choice and the different choices that at any moment that you want to, that you can flip the switch, you can turn the channel, and you can get into any sort of or any new standard of peak that you want to. That as human beings, we have the choice, we have the power. It's in our tool chest or in our toolbox. And, really that book was really, my message, my story. I got very vulnerable writing that book. I think we're going to give away 3 books today. It was vulnerable, and it was different for me too, because I wrote it as a fable. I built characters into that book. And number one, it's like I wasn't born to write. And, I wrote my first book, Relentless Success, about 5-6 years ago. And then this book has just been stewing in me because I wanted to share what I had to overcome. And I also, not only in overcoming it, but I'm still on that journey, right? It's just a process. And I believe that it's an infinite game. I don't believe that there's a finish line to The Observer or becoming The Observer, because I just believe that there's so many layers and so many depths to that. And, so based on that, it's funny is where that book started and then where I am today and kind of how I see the world and some of the choices and decisions and actions that I take to get in certain states of mind or states of emotion to perform at my best and to become the best version of myself on a daily basis, not just for my business and not just for my success, but just overall to try to, to really strive to be the best version of myself. And I love that every day that, we get granted that day to have an opportunity to breathe, to get vertical, is an opportunity to learn something new. And is the pursuit of really trying to get better and trying to be better. And maybe not for us, maybe it's for other people. And maybe by getting better, we can serve more. And so ultimately, it's not just about us. But I appreciate you mentioning the book. If you guys don't,
I have a question about the book. So what I
Yeah.
love about the book,
Yeah.
you just talked about writing and the fable and using characters, and your main character is Kat. She's a woman. And then there's a lot with her dad and a lot with her son and baseball. And I was like, interesting. And how did that come about that you chose your protagonist to be female? Like, can you talk a little bit about that? Because that sparked me a lot of joy. And I was like, oh, interesting. I like this kind of neat take from your perspective. I know it's a fable, but there's layers, like you were just saying, that reflect. So please talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, awesome. Great question. That question seems to keep coming up, and it's like, it's funny. It's like, Todd, it's like, this book is really a memoir, and why didn't I write it as a memoir and just, build it all around, me and my life? This book is interesting because basically all of the stories are something I went through, and Kat, the female character, is going through those things throughout the book to get to a place at the end. But it was an opportunity for me to be vulnerable by taking my story and giving it to someone else. Number one, so that I didn't make it about me. And then the biggest reason why is because I wanted to strip away all the excuses that someone might have if I would have wrote it as a memoir. And what I mean by that is I didn't want someone to say, yeah, he could overcome that, but look who his mom and dad are. He's got great parents. He grew up in a great environment. His playground was Yankee Stadium. He stood in the outfield grass next to Mickey Mantle. Yogi Berra was a family friend. He went to the School of Champions. He was always around great environments. It's easy for him. But the reach, I want to reach everyone in this. And I wanted to strip away the excuses. I wanted to strip away the victim mentality that the way I am is because of the way I grew up. And I didn't want anyone to be able to blame it on their parents, blame it on living on the street, blame it on living and bouncing around all the different orphanages and all of the different things. Because look, those are our old stories. And that's what I had to overcome an old story, and I had to rewire a new story and become the creator of a new life. So no matter how bad you have it today, it's like, and if you're laying on your back and you're like, man, I just can't take another step, I'm gonna tell you that I'm gonna call BS on that. You can get back on your feet. You can rewire a new story. You can begin today, and your old story does not have to determine your life. And I had to rewire an old story that was really a lie. And I built the lie. I told myself this story over and over, and I felt this story over and over so many times that I took a lie that I told myself and I made it a truth. And when you make something that's a lie, that's a truth, you become then that new truth. It becomes your truth. Well, even though it's a lie, and even though it's baggage, and even though it's something, it's an old story. See, when we always fall back to our old ways, then we can never create anything more than the success we've had in our past, because we're continuing to live our old stories. So for me, it was like, man, I wanted people to know that for all of the people that, my mission on this book was really for all the people that are thinking about that, life's not worth it, maybe. Or maybe they're thinking like, well, I wasn't born, and because of who I am, I can't do that impossible thing.
Yeah.
And that's not true. Ordinary people do extraordinary things because they do the ordinary day in and day out, and they become masters of something, and then they become extraordinary. They weren't born extraordinary. See, I don't believe that how you're born, your DNA, your genetics, your environment, I don't believe that that's your destiny. Your destiny is what you create and the story you want to tell yourself. Go ahead, Elizabeth. I see you.
Even your last name. I just want to say, that's a profoundly wonderful last name, and family, your dad, everything. And I love what you say. I mean, I just want to go like, amen, hallelujah, right there.
I'm putting my hand up too, because I want to continue, and I love what you say too. But here's the thing, it's easier said than done. Like, that's a tall order. You talking about someone can just work on that idea, change that story. Is the truth? And I know in the book you talk about the 180-degree thinking and the work it takes to sort of to shift that. And maybe you can talk about that, because it's really easy for us to sit here and say, just go ahead and shift your thoughts, and then and we know, and it's not a simple process.
I'm going to add to Kris's question there, because what I would love for you to do is talk about Harvey with that, if you would, because could you share your story and talk about Harvey too?
Let me just say that everything's hard.
Oh, yeah.
All success is uphill. It's a climb. But let me tell you something. You not living the best version of yourself is also hard. That's hard. See, I would tell you something. Getting in the best shape of your life, that's hard. Not living in the best shape of your life, that's hard.
Harder.
Getting wealthy, hard. Being poor, hard. Becoming the victim, hard. Becoming the champion, hard. Let's get over it. Everything's hard. Pick your hard. Pick your road. Pick your pain. It's not, listen, because I say something and this and that, or because anyone else, or they give you an idea or a concept, it's going to be hard. And it takes practice, and it takes time. And I'll strive to tell people all the time, play the long game. Play the long game. Fall in love with the journey, the process. Fall in love there. I'm not going to give you something today that is going to change your life tomorrow. But what I could give you today is change the direction of your life tomorrow. But it's not going to change your life.
No, you said something to me when I was on the radio with you a few months ago, and it was, you said all in.
Yeah.
That just, immediately I'm like, the light bulb went off, and I'm like, oh my gosh, all in. That is I love it when you talk about, all in.
It's kind of like your dreams. Like, are you sold out? Like, are you going to own them? And so many people, so many times, I was saying the other day, it's like you go to a conference and, there's people that are going to watch this conference, and here's what they're going to do. They're going to take notes. And I'm going to say, well, that's great, but I want to know, what are you doing with the notes? If you do nothing with the notes, then all you have is a bunch of useless information written down on paper that you didn't do anything about. Writing it down isn't going to, look, you got to take action based on what you go pen to paper on. And if you don't, the information, by the way, hopefully it'll be entertaining to you. Right?
Yeah, you'll do for the day.
All in. I went all in with health instantly, and have lost 20 pounds since you
Awesome.
spoke those words. I'm like,
listen, if you don't take time to be healthy, you're going to have to take time to be sick.
Yeah.
Where are you going to spend your time?
I heard it, and I was like, there I go. I'm dropping this weight here and there, and I'll bounce my weight around and all that stuff. Mom of 4 boys, I have every excuse in the world here and there to put on 20 pounds. But when you said all in, I was like, oh yeah, and that's exactly how I do things too. When it matters to me, it's all in. And I thought about that. I'm like that. Yeah.
That's the magic, and I want to kind of restate that for a second. When it matters to you, you're right, because you give it so much meaning that it becomes important to your life that you now want to take an action. But without the meaning and without it mattering to you, you won't do much about it. Matter of fact, if someone told you, Elizabeth, say, hey, listen, you need to look. You'd have to be a brave soul to tell a woman they need to lose 20 pounds, first of all. Right? But let's just say someone told you.
On the woman, but
let's say someone told you, it wasn't your idea. And you thought, yeah, I probably do. But you didn't give it meaning. It didn't become something that mattered to you. If it doesn't matter to you, if you don't give it meaning of why you want to lose the weight, you will never take action to losing the weight. It's just, that's just the way it is. We gotta stack meanings, and I always say building blocks, stack meanings. The more meanings you can give a reason why you want to do something, the greater the possibility that you actually follow through and take the action and actually do it.
Yeah.
But it has to have meaning to you, you know, it has to create something for you. Hey, I'll go back just for a second, and then we can kind of land back on some of the steps and tools and that sort of thing. Is, you know, I had great parents. I grew up in, you know, my playground was Yankee Stadium. Monument Park was the monkey bars for my brothers and I. We put our Yankee uniforms on every single day. We went to work with my dad. He was a baseball player, 3-time 20-game winner, 5-time All-Star. He's a 5-time world champion. He's a legend in New York. And in the 60s and 70s, growing up in that environment, it was crazy. The people we got to be around, the life we got to live. But in the middle of that, living in that environment, our environment inspired us to begin to dream. And the dream was always to follow in my father's footsteps. It was like, man, he's got the greatest job in the world. He plays baseball. He goes to a stadium. He plays a game. He calls it work. He gets paid. I'm like, I don't ever want to grow up. I just want to play games, right? And we were like, man, this is what we want to do. Now, we had to go through all the things that you have to do in order to fulfill the dream. And we were able to do that, had great guidance. I was able to live out my childhood dream. And it really takes me to 1993. And here I am now in my late 20s. I'm living out my childhood dream, making millions of dollars. And we just won our second world championship in Toronto with the Toronto Blue Jays. We won in 1992 and we won in 1993. Well, when I get home in 1993 for the winter, you know, I get to a place where I start really reflecting, and I just get to a place in my life where I'm like, you know, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of landing mentally and emotionally in the exact same place, whether it's on a baseball field or it's in life. And I was like, man, I want help. I want to overcome this. I want to get better, because I knew potentially as an athlete, I was better than I was performing. More importantly than that, though, as a human being, I was like, man, I'm so much better than the way I'm acting, the way I respond, the way I treat people. And I was like, and I would treat people sometimes in some situations like Kat does in the book, and then later would have remorse and like, man, I feel so bad I treated that person that way. What was driving all this was 12 years prior to that very moment, I was 15 years old. My little brother was 11. He was on his third bout of leukemia. And I gave the doctors deemed his only chance for survival long-term was a bone marrow transplant. And this was back in 1981. And I was the perfect match. I gave my little brother the bone marrow transplant. My marrow eventually put him into a coma that eventually took his life. Tragic. It's tragic. And I know there's people out there that are going to listen to this that have gone through that similar tragedy. And I can't even imagine being a parent like my mother and father having to bury their 11-year-old son. We were taken as a family. We were crushed. Yeah. And you know, I left that hospital obviously sad, obviously crushed, taken to my knees. But I also left that hospital with two other emotions, and the emotions of hate. I hated God. I hated the world for taking my little brother away from me. I was playing victim. I was like, this isn't fair. This isn't right. Why doesn't he get to live? And then I had something just overwhelmed my body. And what overwhelmed my body was the guilt. I was like, good Lord, my marrow put him into a coma that took his life. And I started to tell myself, I'm the reason why he's dead. And even though the doctors were like, Todd, you did everything you could do. I'm a 15-year-old boy. You can say what you want to me. It was my marrow that killed my little brother. And even though my mom and dad, man, and I get emotional, not for me, but for them today sometimes. But even though my mother and father did everything they could, you know, to put their arms around me and to ensure me that it wasn't me, that I'd done everything I could do, I was a 15-year-old boy not willing to listen to my mother and father, because that story, I adopted that story. That lie, I told myself it was me. I'm the reason why. And I fed on it. By the way, I fed that story. because I continued to think it. And as I continued to think it, and as I continue to have these thoughts, I continue to feel that person. And I had been telling myself that lie and that story, not for a little while. And I told it over and over and over, and I felt it over and over and over. And I had begun to rewire my brain and heart to become that person. And my whole personality changed. And I went from a laid back kid to a kid with his hair on fire that if you told me I couldn't, I would run through a wall. If you told me I couldn't control something. And here's what happened. It's like for 12 years, I lived and wired that story into my life. So here's what would happen. I built a prison that I lived in. It's called unforgiveness. I refused to forgive myself. And because of that, anytime I got into a situation, a stimulus, something where I had to react, respond, defend, hate and guilt would show up on the surface, and it would destroy me becoming the best person or the best athlete or the best performer that I could. And it would destroy my state, and it would destroy me, allowing me to perform in peak states and to perform at peak performance. And I realized it. See, I didn't have someone tell me, say, Todd, you need help. I was like, man, I know I need help, because even though from the outside, it looked like I'd had everything. Grow up the son of a legend, Yankee Stadium, great environments, live out a childhood dream, make millions of dollars, 2-time world champion. It's like, geez, this guy gets everything handed to him. Problem was, I looked in the mirror. I hated that person looking back at me, because on the outwardly, I look great. On the inside, I'm broken. I'm living in darkness. I'm living in hate. See, I'm going to tell you something. When you hate yourself, it steals the ability for you to ever love someone else. And I was like, I was so sick. I didn't listen. I didn't love anyone. I hated everything. And it was like anything I couldn't control, I hated. If I couldn't control it, I hated it. If things didn't go my way, guilt, hate, emotion, boom, would show up. Not some of the time, all the time. So I reached out to a guy. I said, he was the guru of Major League Baseball. He was the mindset guy, and he'd helped so many people overcome and become peak performers by getting in peak states. And I called him. I said, Harvey. I said, his name is Harvey Dorfman. He wrote The Mental Game of Baseball, and rest in peace. He was, he changed my life. And I said, Harvey, this is Todd Stottlemyre. And he said, I've been waiting on your call. I was like, Harvey, I didn't know you even knew who I was. And I said, Harvey, I need help. He says, oh, I know. We booked a 2-hour meeting, and that 2-hour meeting in a hotel room lasted 12 hours. Here's what I'm going to tell you. In the first hour, he asked me this question, and he got really close to me, and he stared into my eyes, and he said, would you do it again? I was like, do what? What? He goes, would you give a bone marrow transplant to your little brother again? And I said, man, I broke. He broke me. I bawled like a baby, man. And when I came to and kind of gathered myself, I said, man, I do it every minute of every hour of every day, Harvey. I do it over and over and over. He got a little closer to me. Now, as he stared into my eyes, it's like he could see my soul. He could feel me. And then he said to me, didn't you already do that? And I said, yes. He said, Todd, did you do everything you could do? I said, yeah, I did. He said, man, you're not God. He said, you didn't kill your little brother, nor did you have the ability to save him. He was not in your control. He said, it is time to forgive and let go. Listen to what I'm saying. Forgive and let go. It was like I was immediately light on my feet. It was like an elephant or whatever off my back and chest. And I was like, the first time in my life, somebody really pulled me and told me, looked at me and shared hard truths with me. and poured into me, and poured into not my heart, but my soul, the very being, and said, man, forgive and let it go, because you've already done everything you can possibly do. And he's like, and the more you wear that story, the more that story shows up. And he says, and you're destroying, here's what he said, you're destroying your life. You're destroying yours, thinking you took his. When the fact of the matter is, you didn't take his. And I was like, man, it was like he gave me permission. And I was like, whew. But then he said, Todd, if you would have said no, here's what he said, then I would have told you to forgive, change now, honor the defeat, and let it go. I want you to think about this. And this is exactly why I wrote this book. Because there are people hanging on to yesterday's news. There are people still hanging on, blaming themselves, not forgiving themselves for something that's happened in their lives. And that story, they've not only wired it in their thoughts and their brain, they've wired it in their hearts, and they can never get past that story, which means you can never create a better version of yourself living that old story. And that was me. And even though I was a two-time world champion, it's because I played on great teams. You see, I was performing, but not at the best of my ability. And off the field, I was this animal. And I got to tell you something. Then he says in the last hour of that meeting, which was really the making of the observer, and he said, will you go on a 7-day challenge with me? And I said, yeah, I will. And he says, okay, for the next 7 days, you are not allowed to respond or to react to anything for 7 days. He said, if someone cuts you off in traffic, you can't respond, you can't react. If someone starts to get a piece of your mind, you can't respond, you can't react. You're not allowed to do any of that. He says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to step back from all the stimulus over the next 7 days you're going to go through, all the challenges, all the things. He says, you can't respond. He says, all I want you to do is document. And here's what I want you to document. I want you to observe your thoughts that you're having in that moment. I want you to observe the feeling and emotion you're having in the moment. And I need you to document it. Write it in a journal. And it was the beginning of me journaling. And it was, what was incredible was what he really was telling me is I had to drop my ego from trying to control something for 7 days. For 7 days, I wasn't allowed to compete. I wasn't allowed to respond. I wasn't allowed to defend any of my beliefs. Wasn't allowed to. For me to be authentic in the challenge. But as I wanted to defend my beliefs, as I wanted to compete, as my ego wanted to show up, as I wanted to control things, I didn't respond. I documented those thoughts and those feelings. He then said, in 7 days, we're going to go on a journey and we're going to build you a tool chest to not only become the best version of yourself, but for a way for you to pitch on a Major League Baseball field, diamond, and on a mound, for you to pursue that potential and get the best of yourself, to get into a place of peak performance, but not only to get there, but to be able to know and understand how to stay in peak performance. You see, because I would get to a place of peak performance and then something would happen in a game and I would unravel. And when I would unravel, it'd be too late. It would cost us the game, and then I wasn't pitching to my potential. So this really, what happened to me was, by becoming the observer, it put me in a new state of thinking. Instead of defending, instead of reacting. See, here's what I would tell you. Our knee-jerk responses are telling us who we are, and it's telling us the pain we need to work on. Those knee-jerk responses are telling us about our inside game. You see, I had an inside problem. Harvey taught me how to heal from the inside out. He says, because all success comes from the inside. Success isn't an outside game. Success is an inside-outside game. She said, we got to work on what's going on the inside of us. I want you to think, I want to the audience today, is like, what are you hanging on to? What old story are you still so long out on that doesn't matter how many conferences you go to, until you get over the old story, you cannot create a new story. You can't. Could you imagine going through life? I want you to think about it. Saying I can't, blaming my parents. It's all luggage. You just keep piling it on you. And at some point, it's like when I look at you, you're just a whole bunch of bags and suitcases, because it's a whole bunch of crap from an old story that you keep telling yourself. And by the way, the more you tell it, the more you live it, that's what people see. So until you can heal it, until you forgive yourself of it, it's impossible to move on, to create something new, to create states that are beautiful, to go from hate to love, go from victim to hero, right? To go from all of that, and it's like, it's a major transformation. Now, by the way, does it take time? Does it take practice? Are there tools? Yeah, there are tools. See, Harvey gave me tools. And those tools, those models, those principles, I'll put in the book. And I'll give you a few critical steps, and I'm going to turn it over to you two. One of the steps is in order to move forward, the first thing you got to do is let go of all the crap. You got to let it go. Look, you got to learn from your past. And when you learn and you capture the lesson, now you got to let it go and no longer live that past. So you got to change your story. You got to rewrite it by letting it go. Number two is you got to get present. And I'm going to tell you about presence. Presence is getting to a place of this very breath. See, when I get so present with the breath, with the moment of this breath, then I'm no longer looking back. You see, some people say, well, I'm being present. Yeah, but you're still talking and telling and emotion and mentally you're still infatuated with the old story. So you're not even really in the present moment. The present moment says yesterday is over. The present moment says that at 1 hour ago, however you acted, performed, what state you were in, what you thought, and what you felt, that's over. The present is now. What are we doing right now in this very breath? It's about getting present. It's about getting conscious with our thoughts and our feelings, not unconscious. Unconscious is an old story, an old habit, an old theme. The beautiful thing about both those worlds is conscious says, hey, I'm going to go do a new experience, create a new habit. The unconscious world says that behavior became a habit. Now I'm on autopilot. I want you to think about it. So our old story is in our unconscious that's on autopilot. We got to rewire it. We got to retell it. We got to change it. We got to recreate it. And the only way to do is let it go and get present. And then we got to do what? Then this is where our thoughts come in. This is the 180-degree mindset. This is where I don't like how I'm thinking. Great. You have the power to change that thought. It's called thought replacement. Me and Harvey called it the 180-degree mindset. Think about it. What's 180 degrees from I can't? I can. What's 180 degrees from sad? Happy. What's 180 degrees from hate? Love. So look, wherever I'm at, if I don't like the way I'm thinking, what's 180 degrees from that thought? Now watch what happens. Now I got a new thought. Now the more I focus on that thought, because my brain and heart are wired together, the more I focus on it, the more I meditate on the new thought, the more I start to feel it. See, you can't think sad and feel happy. If you think sad, you feel sad. We're connected. Our brains and our hearts are so connected. Now, here's what's crazy. Our thoughts can drive our emotions, but here's the other thing. Our heart can also drive the way we think. Our emotions can drive our thoughts. They work hand in hand, and it works both ways. And, you know, so our old story that is limiting us is calling time out and replacing it. And it's replacing it with what? A new vision, a new thought process. And then we got to spend, listen, by the way, this doesn't happen overnight, but here's the beauty. It takes no talent to replace a thought. Every human being on earth can go, I feel like crap. I feel good. That took no talent for me to just do that. I just have to understand. This is the way I'm feeling. This is the way I'm thinking. This is the state I'm in. I don't like it. It's an old story. It's not taking me where I want to go. I need to create a new state, and I need to start with my thoughts. And I need to go 180 degrees from there. I need to meditate. I need to focus, because where my focus goes, the energy flows. And as the energy flows to my new thought, I start to feel my new thought. I start to get into a new state. As I talk about this, just think about the excitement of the state that I'm in right now, because I had to overcome this garbage. What's the next thing after thoughts? It's emotions. It's our feelings. It's in our feelings determine our state, and our states define our lives. They all work hand in hand. So when it comes to emotions, I can have a 180 degree emotion. Doesn't have to be mindset. And it can be say, man, I don't feel good today. And then I can say, call time out on myself, and I can say, stop, Todd. Not feeling good, is it going to be productive with what you have to do? No. Can you change the way you feel? Yes. Self-talk. Self-talk. It's a great tool Harvey gave me. It's where you listen less to the bad emotion, to the bad thought, and talk more to yourself. It's the only time you should talk more is to yourself. It's the only time.
I'm going to give that another amen and hallelujah.
I know, right? I love that. And I love what you said when you literally just said the word stop. And for me, I'm huge on mindset and changing and working on those thoughts. That's been my life's journey and my life's work for various reasons too. And one of my coaches told me, if you find yourself in that negative talk where you're taking yourself down where you don't want to go, physically out loud say stop. So you hear it and say it, and then introduce the new thought that you want, that you prefer, that you crave, that you desire. And you right now just said that, because that is something too, you know, sitting here talking about, you know, change, stop the sad, stop the hate, stop the 180 it over here. But it's difficult. And even when you were talking about your 7-day challenge, you're like, oh, I just journaled. And I'm sure that there was a lot more to that. Like day 1 and 2 must have just been like trudging through it, because I'm a knee-jerk reactor. I'm an inputter, outputter, interjector, all of those things. And that can't have been easy. And it wasn't easy for me to say stop to myself. Like, I still have to work on it. It is a lifelong journey for me to continue to be a mindset champion.
So you're right. Hard, difficult, right? It's kind of like we talked before. It's like everything's hard. Look, do I fail at it today? Yeah, I fail at it. But here's the beauty. It doesn't last a week, a day. Doesn't even last an hour now, because I'll catch myself and I'm like, whoa, Todd, time out. My wife will laugh at me. My beautiful wife, Erica, she'll say, you're talking to yourself, aren't you? I'm like, yeah, how'd you know? Because you're shaking your head. I'm like, I'm shaking my head because I'm getting rid of this garbage. Like, no, Todd. And she'll see me sometimes and she's like, see, look, what am I doing? I'm challenging the voice on the inside of my head. And I want to create a new voice, a new story, a new language. I want to create a love language. I want to create a hero's language. I want to create a warrior's language. I want to create, you know, and it's like sometimes, but even today, look, I've been practicing this since 1993. It's 2021. Do I still have to practice it? Yes. It's an infinite game. Our mindsets, our heart sets, it's infinite. There's no end game. Listen, personal development, growth, infinite. There's no finish line. See,
I agree.
But when I pitched in a baseball game, it was a finite game. So I had to perform in a finite game. which means I had to find a way to stay in peak performance for a certain amount of time in those moments. So it used to be, I can still hear him. This pitch, this moment, what are you going to do with it? Think about that for a second. You can do this in life. You can do this in life. It was like this pitch. It's like, it's present. It's what I have to do right now. This moment it's not the last pitch. It has nothing to do with the past. What am I going to do with it? It's like, okay, what am I going to do now? Look, it's where our minds go from focusing what we can do instead of something that's happened or something we can't control. Think about 2020.
Mm-hmm.
We got to take time out for this. How many knee-jerk reactions on social media about COVID, race, and politics? And those reactions, how much hate versus love showed up in the post? What does it tell us? It wasn't COVID. It wasn't race. It wasn't politics that drove the hate. It was something we got to fix on the inside. It's an old story from our past that keeps showing up, and we're using that to respond to and to deliver our old story and our hate to the new subject. By the way, end of story. So
Thank you. Yeah.
Look,
There's nothing.
every single one of us, we need to work. We need to constantly work on us, but we need to understand it's not an overnight game. There's no finish line to it. It's a pursuit. It's a journey. It's a process. It's infinite. It's kind of like to pursue your potential is the greatest thing in the world. It's so fun. That means that every day is exciting. Can I get better? Can I find a way to get better? Right? And it's so fun. But here's what's great. The closer you get to your potential, the further it walks away from you. What I mean by this, the better you get, the more the impossible becomes a potential reality for you. See, everything that's impossible to you today, if you'll work on you, that impossible will show up as an opportunity for you tomorrow. And what do I mean by tomorrow? Maybe a year from now. But those opportunities that are staring you in the face today, you're blinded by your own truth that you're living today. You're blinded by it. But if we can grow us, we can develop new truths, new stories, those opportunities that are literally sitting right in front of us, all of a sudden it's like, you can see them. And you're like, wow. Isn't it strange how some people will say, money's everywhere? And now say that to someone who's broke and hungry. And you say to the person, listen, money's everywhere. And they're like, dude, I can't even buy a cheeseburger. What are you talking about? Right? And it's like, but the more we work on ourselves, we start to see opportunities. But better than that, watch this. If you don't work on yourself and an opportunity does show up, you won't be prepared to take advantage of it. Period.
Yeah, at all. I so agree with that. As you were talking, I'm like, the harder I work, the luckier I get. The harder I work, the luckier I get, kind of thing. And yeah, no, I agree. Okay, I have a question about action. So I'm huge into mindset and huge into the action that is so required to lay up to the mindset, because sometimes oftentimes, almost always, without some type of action, you just stay stuck and So what words do you have, or what teachings do you have regarding taking action, the practice that you need to put in motion? I'm going to give you my two favorite, and I hope you chime in with them. My two favorite are consistency and discipline.
I love it.
You?
Well, I love them. Listen,
that's how I lost 20 pounds. Consistency and discipline. I'm not going to eat that. I'm going to do the same thing.
So let me go back just a little bit.
Yeah.
Is like, the first thing we have to do is have the right strategy to be consistent with, so we can get the right result. Wrong strategy, wrong result. So how do we find and develop the right strategy? Find someone who's done it, and it becomes the foundation of your strategy that you move forward with. As you move forward, their strategy that they created success with might not work perfectly for you, but it creates a foundation of which you can draw strength from and begin to take action on. Right? Does it make sense?
Oh.
Right? It's like, so we gotta figure out like what works. And I would tell you that I believe that just about with any industry in the world, and you know, this could be challenged, it'd be okay. It's just my opinion. I'll just share it. But I believe that I can walk into any industry and find if I can narrow it down to 3 to 5 things that I need to master. And if I do that, I can excel in this industry. I now just have to figure out what are those 3 to 5 things. So I have to find someone in that industry that I want to perform in that is excelling and I go and just literally find out what is it that they do daily? What's the strategy? What are the 3 to 5 things? And it becomes my new focus of taking action. Let me go. And then as I go, and then it's a foundation, you know, it's a building blocks, because now you might find someone that has greater success in that same industry. And then you just continue to march forward.
I love it. I love the 5 a.m. too.
Consistency. I will say this, consistency to that is like, you're a miniature version of what your day looks like.
And I am actually a miniature version of that at like 5 feet, at 5'2". I'm actually
20 pounds less, so you can get more miniature.
Yeah. Kris is 5'10", and I'm like 5'2".
That consistency is, what are we doing daily? Not what we do some of the time, not what we do once a week, but what is it that we do literally every single day? Look, we own companies. And I'm an entrepreneur, and we got a private equity. We got about 12 portfolio companies in there, and that's business, okay? But what is it that, whether I sell that business or something happens to that business, but outside of that, what do I personally do daily? Like, I have 5 things. Like,
what are they?
So I read.
Yeah.
I read.
Hang on.
I spend 30 minutes minimum reading. I do that at night. I listen. So what do I listen to? I listen to audiobooks, podcasts, YouTube videos, somewhere where I can go learn. I journal. I want to journal. I want to capture the ideas. And then I file. I have a filing system that I take the best ideas from my journal and I put those in the forefront of the file, and I begin to build on those. And then number 5 is exercise. Listen, a 30-minute intentional walk, which means step after step for 30 minutes. A 30-minute intentional walk. I'm not talking about wearing one of the wristbands that measures how many steps you take throughout the day. I'm talking about 30-minute consecutive intentional walk. Science. This is what science will tell us. Science says that it'll fight off 50% of fatality type diseases that could attack your body. Watch. What if it's true?
I love it.
Do you have 30 minutes a day to protect your health? If you don't, you could spend years fighting for your life.
Yep.
The way I look at it is, I don't know if that science is 100% correct, but if 50% of fatality type diseases that I could fend off by a 30-minute walk a day, I'm in. Because here's why. The 30-minute walk, not only will it help me maybe fight off those diseases, it gives me alone time to get centered, to think, gives me time to meditate and visualize. It gives me, it's unbelievable, all the benefits of a stupid 30-minute walk. And people say, man, Todd, I'm just so busy. Yeah, well, how's it going to feel?
Yeah.
You see, it's like, listen, we gotta. This is where we align our values with our calendar.
Yeah.
This is like, I love the whole concept of aligning our values with our calendar. Like, people will say, I say, what's the most important thing in the world to you? They say, my family. I said, dude, you missed your kid's game last weekend. Mm-hmm. What were you doing? Well, I had to work. So work is more important than your kids on the weekend? I'm like, hold on a minute. Mm-hmm. I'm confused. You tell me what the most important things are to you, but you live a different way. Yeah. And I will tell you, when you align your values with your calendar, here's what happens. You find a peaceful place called fulfillment.
Oh,
it's beautiful.
Yes, fulfillment.
One of the favorite things about my husband, actually, 4 boys, each 2 years apart, all played baseball. He never missed a game. We never missed one game with all of them. And we had one time where we had all 4 of them on all different fields at once running around. Yeah. I love that story. That is so good to align. Alignment, Kris. That's another great word. Alignment and amplify. Kris, do you want to ask some questions?
I mean, I could talk to Todd all day. I love that. He was like, my first coaching with Harvey was 12 hours. I'm like, Todd, we have 11 to go. Like, don't leave us. But in truth, our summit is a little tighter. It's fine. You can just invite us both over for coffee once the world opens up. We'll be there.
There you go. There you go.
Look at your awards in person and give you hugs because we miss hugs. But yes,
there you go.
I think we're going to circle back to the summit, and we've been asking all of our summit participants 2 questions to sort of tie it in, and I think that's where you're headed, right, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I think because we're coming to an hour and
for Todd.
Yeah. Okay. So we ask our summit participants. We call it our incredible yes. And an incredible yes is a moment where you said yes to something or someone, and it changed your life. So there can be many moments, but just maybe pick 1 or 2, or 3 or 4 if you want to stay on stream with us for another hour. So.
I'll stay broad with it, so I don't get too deep with it. But I'll just say that think about the things you say yes to. That when it's time to go there, you're like, why did I say yes to this? Mm-hmm. Right? Think about that commitment, and it's like, and now you don't want to go. And now you have a choice to make. Because I don't want to go, do I make something up and cancel? Or do you say, I'm going to be my word? I gave someone my commitment. I gave my word. I'm going to be my word. And even though now, mentally and emotionally, I don't want to go do what I said yes to, I'm going to go ahead and follow through. Here's what happens. It's usually the most important yes of what you said yes to, because it's like think about how many times you're like, man, I just don't want to go. Dang it. And then you go and you're like, oh, thank God I went to that.
Yep.
Thank God. Or maybe you meet somebody that you were supposed to meet, but if you would have canceled, you would have blocked. You would have been the reason to keep you from meeting someone, maybe not the event, but the person that was going to change your life. Mm-hmm. So I would just tell you that, look, when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And when you say no to something, you're also saying yes to something else.
Yeah.
But here's what I would tell you is be that. Be that. Because that's life-changing. Be in your word. And when you say yes, you're saying no to something else. And when you say no, you're saying yes to something. I'm telling you, be that. That's the life-changing moment.
Yeah. I love that.
I love it. Absolutely.
There's a million things I'll say yes to because I'm a yes guy. I'm hard to say no, right? And it's like I'm learning how to say no. But I would tell you that, and it's my fault, right? Because I know that when I say yes to everything, it's like it really ends up stealing joy from myself sometimes, because you do, but it's okay because I always feel like, man, it's an opportunity to serve and whatever. So the point is it's like everything that I just said that I just coached right there is like, man, I don't fail on my word, but I fail on saying yes too much, which means I'm saying no to really maybe myself or to my family or whatever it is in that moment that is a value of mine. And at the end of the day, these things happen. So, but it's kind of like everything I coach on. It's like, whether it's mindset or whether it's my emotions and, hey, today is something some stimulus going to bother me emotionally? Yeah, I have the ability to call time out on myself and challenge myself to leave that negative state of being and go back into a positive state. So it's really, what it is? It's ultimate clarity and awareness.
Do you have a moment in your life where you were like you said yes to something and you were just super scared or fear crept in and you were like nervous to be there or go there or whatever because of whatever reason, but you said yes and then in the end you were like, oh, I'm so glad I did that.
Listen, I live an uncomfortable life. It's not comfortable at all. I stay uncomfortable. You know how people say, hey, you want to grow, get out of your comfort zones? I don't live in a comfort zone ever, by the way.
Yeah.
I consistently challenge myself to take on new things where I have no expertise. When you do that, it is severely uncomfortable. When I look at a business, we would never buy a business if we had to know everything about that industry, right? Or whatever. Our challenge in living uncomfortable is say, look, we'll learn, we'll grow, we'll develop. Ultimately, we got to believe we can add value to it or we wouldn't bring it into our deal. But when we look at a business, it's not something we've mastered. It's something we got to grow to master. And I would tell you that listen, it was uncomfortable for me to come here today. And as much as I share and and all the places that I've been and the stages and this and all the times that I've been asked, it's not like, oh, I'm comfortable, like hope it works out, big deal if it doesn't. No, I'm uncomfortable because, and my prayer is to reach, is to serve, is to not just inspire people, but to leave them with a tool that they can take so that can impact their life. So that's the challenge. It's uncomfortable because you want to make sure your message is, number one, is authentic, it's real, it means all those things, but I don't want to go into it. But listen, you guys let me say this. You have other people to get to today. You got other speakers. You got an incredible thing you two have pulled off, and I've had so much joy watching you and how much all the hard work you two have put into this event, and I hope people appreciate it and have gratitude and all the people you've assembled and the different messaging. It's going to just be an incredible few days and all of that. I do want to close. I guess I'll close maybe if that's okay with my version is one of the X factors to more success is reflection.
Yeah.
And you've heard me talk a lot about, getting rid of the baggage, right? The old story. But I don't want you to miss this because it's okay to reflect, study a past performance, not to get buried there, to learn, to look for the opportunities that you might have missed, to maybe look for a new strategy as you do it. And I always compare it to a quarterback in the NFL. Think about when they come off the field, the first thing they do is they go sit down next to their quarterback coach. They pull out an iPad and they look at all the plays. They're looking for opportunities that they missed when they were in tunnel vision out on the field. We can do this if we're willing to study past performances. And when we study? Within 24 hours of the performance, we should study it. We should look at it. Not with a critical eye, but with a place of perception to where you're looking for the missed opportunities. You're looking for ways to get better. Now I'll leave you with 5 questions as you study these past performances. What was I thinking when I was performing? What was I feeling? How was I responding? What were my actions I took to those thoughts and those feelings in that past performance? What could I change? And how can I get better? How can I get better?
Love it.
So
those are beautiful questions. And if you were writing those down, great, or you can catch it on the replay. Todd, thank you so much for spending your time with us. I'm going to get Elizabeth to hold up the Observer one more time because we are going to be giving away not 1, not 2, but 3 copies of the Observer. We're going to announce all our prize winners at the end of today because we have prizes all day. Thank you so much. And you're doing something else for us too. And I'm going to get you to tell us about that.
Yeah, we're going to give away a full year to my monthly coaching program. I go live once a month. I call it the Inner Circle. I have a group of entrepreneurs from all over. It's a small group. It's a really cool group of people.
Yeah, I'm sneaking myself in. I know we're going to choose a winner, and I'll just be like, there 2.
You go. Yeah. And it's fun because it's kind of like as I evolve, as I grow, as I have new thoughts and new trainings, I get to share it with this group first off and firsthand, and then I do Q&A and we do a live, and then we do a Q&A afterwards. And there are times that, and sometimes it'd be like a 40-minute training where I'm teaching something new. but there are times where we literally will stay online 2.5 hours because I don't leave until every question is answered. I just refuse to leave. So we're going to give away a full year. We go on live the last Wednesday of every month. I can't wait to meet the winner of that. It'll be cool, and you'll build relationships inside this, and it's a really cool group. So thank you. Yeah.
We're so grateful for you, Todd. Does anybody listening have any questions for Todd? If you do, type them in. You're going to have just a few minutes here to do that. So we had questions we had comments while you were speaking. Good morning, and I just tuned in and I moved and things like that. If anybody has anything else, otherwise we're going to wind up. But as Todd would say, Todd, what do you say? The floor is yours. I want to hear you say that.
I'm sorry. What do you want me to say?
The floor is yours.
The floor is yours. I just say that I'm humbled. I'm honored. This has been a blessing. You know, when you learn something, or when you overcome something, and you've taken action with that piece of whatever it is in your life, it allows you to create a ministry to serve others with what you've learned. And you know, for me, this whole mission of sharing and serving, you know, really started for me, you know, when I was 50. I'm going to be 56 today. So
today?
You know, no, not today, but
okay. I think I missed
prior. You know, it was like, you know, all the coaches, mentors, all the great people I've had in my life that had poured into my life. I used all of their talents, their strategies, their thoughts, their mindsets, their tools, their models, their principles for living, and I used it to better my life. And then I got on a mission when I turned 50. I said, you know, I'm going to take everything that I've learned, everything that I've taken action on, all of my failures, setbacks, and how I've overcome them, and who helped me, and where I got that principle, that model, that thought, that action to overcome, and really just make it a ministry and share it with other people and try to help them become better than they were before you showed up in their life. And my goal is to help people succeed 10 times greater than I've ever succeeded. But I would just tell you, you know, as you go to these conferences and as you get to be a part of what, you know, you two ladies have put together, which is going to be an extraordinary few days, is take a lot of notes and then take action based on your notes. And as you work through things, then it gives you the opportunity to go share, right? It's when we've taken action and we've made it through something that it can become your message. So I would say, God bless. Thanks for having me, man. It's been a joy for me. Every time you teach, every time you talk, every time you get to serve someone else, you know, I would tell you, I feel guilty because I get so much more out of it too, as I get to share with you all. So God bless. Have an extraordinary few days, and I can't wait to plug in and see what's going on.
All right. Thank you so much. Kris, I think we're good.
Thank you so much, Todd. We appreciate it. We'll just give you some sparkles and glitter and some applause from, I'm sure everybody
appreciates our glitter.
Wish you a beautiful day, and bye for now.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, ladies. All right. Bye-bye.